Alright, now what are the strategies that we use, we employ, we read? Now in everyday life we use different strategies and different approaches. It all depends on what we are reading. So there could be multiple strategies that we might be adopting. Sometimes we read very quickly. We skim for general ideas and we scan for specific points. So when we read quickly, or whenever we want to look for general ideas, we skim. And if we want to look for a particular piece of information, we scan. But if we want a general understanding, we read slowly. Rather specific understanding also, we read slowly, trying to gain a detailed understanding. So there are three different types we would like to read in the IELTS test and otherwise also. Now, the three strategies that I'll be using here will be skimming, scanning, and reading for details. Now let's see what is skimming, what is scanning, and what is reading for details. Now see, skimming, very important. Whenever we want to read very quickly, we skim a text. How do we skim a text? We look at the heading, we look at the subheadings, and we look at the first sentence of each paragraph. I'll tell you why when I explain to you the construction of paragraph. So what is skimming means to read something very quickly to get the general idea or the gist of the passage. And how do we do that? We read the heading, that is the title. Sometimes there is subheading also given, so we read the subheading. And of course, we read the first sentence of every paragraph. Sometimes we may read first sentence and the last sentence of every paragraph. You'll just find out when I give you more information about it. Now, the purpose of skimming is to understand the gist, the essence, the general idea of the text. We don't want to understand the details, but overview, the general idea. So skimming is done to get the gist of the passage. Now let's move, and you know, skimming is a very good strategy throughout the IELTS test. Now I want you to know so much that you could decide what to do in this scenario, whether to skim, whether to scan, or whether to read for detail. But skimming, very, very important, and you will be doing it almost every time when you come across an IELTS reading test. Now let's move on to the next part, which is called scanning. Now without giving you any details, a lot of you know what is a scan. A scan means to look at something to find a particular information. In medical terms these days, there is a lot of scanning going on. So we scan a text to look for a specific piece of information or specific words. Scanning is also done to locate a specific area of the text where we may find our information. Now, it is a very, very useful strategy when the questions ask for a specific factual information. So scanning, besides skimming, the other important activity is scanning, and it is done to look for a particular piece of information or locate the area of the text where we may find our answer. How we scan, I will just tell you in next few minutes. And then the third strategy that we normally use in our reading test is reading for details. Here what happens is that when it comes to reading for details, we read word by word very carefully, and we try to think of the meaning of every sentence, because IELTS test questions are very tricky. Sometimes you may not be able to find answer by just skimming or scanning. So you may have to read word by word so that you get the meaning, you understand, and then you can give an answer. So that is also a very important part. And it is very necessary in IELTS to read a certain section in details to answer a question correctly. So this is reading for detail, and usually you must first skim the text to get the general understanding of the passage. Then the next step would be to locate the area of the text where you may find your answer, and then finally read in details word by word so that you get the answer to the question. Let's move further.